UTI. Second. So those two antibiotics are basically fosfomycin. So first of all, fosfomycin. Now, fosfomycin is a drug that will inhibit cell wall synthesis. Okay, it is a cell wall synthesis inhibitor. Hence, this fellow can basically kill bacteria, bactericidal agent. As such, it will work both on gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria. Generally, you can give it orally, you can give it parenterally in some cases as well. The specific usage of fosfomycin is that it is used in uncomplicated UTI. Okay, uncomplicated UTI in women. Uncomplicated UTI is that UTI where there is no kidney involvement. It is not ascending up and it is not involving the kidney. Only the lower urinary tract is being involved. Okay, that will be uncomplicated UTI. Now, it is generally excreted through kidneys. You can give it oral and parenteral. Okay, parenteral. Um, Kidney excretion. So it gets excreted in urine. It actually attains a very good concentration in urine. That is why it is used in this thing. It attains a very high concentration in urine. That is why it is used in uncomplicated UTI. Okay. Then we have linezolid. Now linezolid belongs to a class of drugs called oxazolidine diones. Okay. Oxazolidine diones. That is the class name. The drug is linezolid. The speciality of linezolid is that it will work on gram-positive MRSA, gram-positive bacteria, which are resistant to vancomycin and methicillin. So if you remember in the previous classes, I told you that some what do you call some Staphylococcus aureus species, they will be resistant to methicillin. That can be treated using vancomycin. And sometimes what happens is VRSA develops. So vancomycin resistance also develops. In that conditions, you can use linezolid, this drug. It is useful in both gram-positive, aerobic and anaerobic bacteria. Not as much in case of gram-negative bacteria. Mostly it covers only gram-positive bacteria. It will inhibit 50S ribosomes. Okay, at different concentrations, it can be both bacteriostatic and bactericidal. At a slightly higher concentration, linezolid will be bactericidal, but normally it is bacteriostatic. So mechanism of action is that it inhibits 50S ribosomes. Okay, uh, hence preventing the production of proteins. Now this should be given after dialysis. If you are giving it in a patient who has dialysis, specifically hemodialysis, give it after hemodialysis. Should be given after hemodialysis in a patient on dialysis. Okay. If the patient already has renal failure and they are on dialysis, give this drug after dialysis because it tends to get excreted out if you're giving it before dialysis. Now, as such, the usage of linezolid comes in nosocomial pneumonia. Nosocomial. Nosocomial pneumonia is that pneumonia which a patient acquires in the hospital. Hospital acquired pneumonia भी बोलते हैं इसको. Generally, you give it in the form of 600 mg tablets. You can give it oral or you can give it IV as well. You can give it in nosocomial pneumonia. You can give it in community acquired pneumonia. उसको CAP बोलते हैं. I'll just write it down. Community acquired pneumonia. CAP. Nosocomial pneumonia is also called HAP, hospital acquired pneumonia. Okay. Then you can also give it in some skin infections, few of them. So those that completes our miscellaneous antibiotics, linezolid and fosfomycin. Now coming to UTI, there are two main drugs that are given in UTI treatment. Okay, there are others as well, but these two are constant. So we have one which is nitrofurantoin. Mechanism of action of nitrofurantoin is not known, but what we do know is that it is a bacteriostatic agent. Okay, this is a bacteriostatic agent. At higher concentration, it will become bactericidal. Okay, so mechanism of action is unknown, as I told you. You can use it for gram positive, gram negative. Can be used for spectrum is basically gram positive, gram negative bacteria. Mostly aerobes. Anaerobes do not respond very well to this. Okay, absorption is very rapid, and it attains very good concentration in urine. Attains very good concentration in urine. Hence it is used in UTI. Okay. Then we have another drug called methenamine mandolate. Now, methenamine mandolate is a salt. Okay, the drug itself is a salt of methenamic acid and mandelic acid. Okay, it is a salt of methenamine and mandelic acid. The mechanism of action, how it works, is that this drug will release, once it gets inside the body, it will release formaldehyde. Okay, formaldehyde is released in the body, and the result will be that it will decrease the pH of your urine. So methenamine mild, this fellow mechanism is that I'll just write it as MM. Okay, enters body, releases formaldehyde, and ends up decreasing, increases pH of urine. The result is that at a pH which is less than 5.5, generally it will decrease pH less than 5.5, makes it quite acidic. Bacteria will die. So the result will be that it will act as a bactericidal agent. At that particular pH, bacteria generally tend to die. That is the mechanism of action of your methenamine mandolate. Now there are a few other drugs that can be used in UTI as well. Now those other drugs, see, generally these two are used. You can also use a drug called phenazopyridine. Phenazopyridine is technically an analgesic. It is not exactly an antibiotic. But क्या होता है UTI में the patient will have burning micturition. It will be very uncomfortable for them to urinate. So this urinary analgesic will relieve the sensation of burning whenever they are urinating. So this is a urinary analgesic. Okay, does not exactly cause analgesia elsewhere, but it will relieve the patient of relieves the patient from burning micturition. Okay, UTI में it is pretty common for the patient to have burning micturition. Alright, dysuria भी बोलते हैं इसको, uncomfortable or burning micturition. Now other drugs that can be used in this UTI include sulfonamides. So other drugs that can be used in UTI. We have already discussed the drugs, so I will not go into detail about these drugs. We have sulfonamides, specifically cotrimoxazole, Bactrim, moxazole. Okay. You can use sulfonamides, you can use cotrimoxazole. Cotrimoxazole is a combination of sulfamethoxazole and trimethoprim. Then you can use cloxacillin, ampicillin, penicillin is resistant penicillin, so लोगों को cloxacillin एक one of them है. Then we have ampicillins, aminopenicillin में आता. You can use aminoglycosides. You can use tetracyclines, cephalosporins, especially second and third gen cephalosporins, depending on the bacteria. You can also use fluoroquinolone. Specifically, you can use nalidixic acid. You can use levofloxacin, nalidixic acid. You can use fluoroquinolones like levofloxacin, norfloxacin. Okay. You can also sometimes use ciprofloxacin. Now, these are all the drugs that are used in UTI and the treatment of UTI. Mainly, nitrofurantoin will be commonly used, and methenamine mandolate will be used as well. Now, that is used in combination with these antibiotics. You generally combine it with either cloxacillin, ampicillin, or aminoglycosides, or you combine them with cephalosporins. Sometimes you will give the combination of these itself, in the sense that you'll give a combination of cotrimoxazole and levofloxacin, or combination of the drugs which is mentioned below. Okay, those are the drugs used in UTI. Now coming to drugs used in TB, ये थोड़ा ज़्यादा एक्सटेंसिव है आप लोगों को. Now TB के treatment के लिए we have first line and second line drugs. Okay, there are a lot of drugs in the second line. First line में there'll mainly be 5 drugs. Okay, first line is basically those drugs that are given initially. If the patient is not responding to the first line treatment, that is when you change the treatment and you start giving second line drugs. Okay, if the organism is resistant, or the patient is not responding, or whatever reason the drug is not working and the patient is still suffering from TB and there is no relief from symptoms and all, that is when you start second line treatment. So first line treatment में आता. अच्छा, आप लोगों को टीबी याद है कैसा होता पैथोफिजियोलॉजी? बिकॉज यू नीड टू रिमेंबर हाउ व्हाट इज द पैथोफिजियोलॉजी ऑफ टीबी टू अंडरस्टैंड हाउ टीबी इज ट्रीटेड. इसमें ज़रा ज़्यादा डिटेल में जाते हैं. तो इफ यू रिमेंबर लॉन्ग लॉन्ग अगो वी डिस्कस्ड व्हाट इज टीबी. लंग के पैथोलॉजी में था. Okay, I'll just give you a refresher just in case you don't remember. There is one particular bacteria called Mycobacterium tuberculosis. Okay, that fellow, when inhaled inside, it will come into your lung and it will get phagocytosed. Any pathogen as such gets phagocytosed into your body. So let's suppose a macrophage is coming and eating up this bacteria. Now this bacteria is very smart. It will normally, what happens is, whenever this bacteria is present inside the body, it will get absorbed in the form of a what do you call phagosome, and a lysosome inside the macrophage comes and attaches to this phagosome, disintegrating the pathogen. This is what normally happens. But in case of Mycobacterium tuberculosis, so this is the TB bacteria, this fellow will literally create a few proteins that will block the action of lysosome. That is one thing. Second thing is, it will not let macrophage activate lysosomes. So if lysosome is not activated and if lysosome cannot reach that phagosome, there will be no disintegration of that TB bacteria. This will allow TB to start proliferating. It will start dividing, and initially there will be no symptoms. Almost for 3 weeks there will be no symptoms altogether. What happens is, eventually this bacteria will keep on proliferating and there will be one area where there is necrosis occurring, cheesy necrosis occurring. Okay, that area where it is growing initially will be called Ghon focus. Then once what do you call necrosis occurs, it will become a Ghon complex, especially when it will start involving the nearby what do you call lymph nodes. Okay, later on, if it is disseminating into your blood as well, that will be called a rank complex. Okay, so Ghon focus, Ghon complex, then rank complex. That is the progression of how TB occurs. After that comes miliary TB, wherein it is forming small millet-like structures all around your body, and it is spreading to the whole of your body, to your brain, to kidneys, to liver, and everywhere. And whichever organ is getting affected, there will be these small millet-like bodies that are present on the surface of that organ. That is why it is called miliary TB. Okay, so that was just a small introduction or a small refresher recapitulation of TB. If you want a little more detail, I would strongly suggest that you read pathology once, because we already discussed this. Now coming to first line treatment of TB, there are 5 main drugs, as I told you. There is isoniazid, इसको INH बोलते हैं या H बोल के भी लिखते हैं. Now most of the drugs of TB, they will be coded. Okay, especially when you are giving treatment. If you see a case sheet, you will be able to see that instead of writing the whole name of the drug, sometimes only, because these are given as multiples, you will get fixed dose treatment wherein one single tablet will have a combination of 3-4 drugs. You will understand when I tell you what is fixed dose drugs and fixed dose tablets, उसमें समझ में आता आपको. But for now, just remember that isoniazid is represented as INH or H. Okay. Then there is rifampicin. Rifampicin. This is represented by R. Then there is pyrazinamide. This is represented by Z. Ethambutol, represented by E. Then we have streptomycin. ठीक है. Amino glycoside. This is the first line treatment. अगर ये काम नहीं करे patient में because of whatever reason, you start using the second line drugs. Anti-tubercular treatment का as such classification नहीं है. It is only first line and second line treatment. इसमें आता आपका ethionamide. There is thiacetazone, cycloserine. You can give ciprofloxacin. There is amikacin. ठीक है. There are several more drugs. Bedaquiline रहता, rifabutin रहता, kanamycin रहता. There is kanamycin and bedaquiline. ठीक है, इतने बस है. Now, the purpose of giving all of these is that, see, sometimes there will be resistant strains of TB which will not respond to the normal drugs of TB. In those cases as well, second line treatment is used. Or sometimes what happens is the patient is not able to tolerate the first line treatment. The adverse effects and side effects of first line treatment, the patient will not be able to tolerate that. In that case, you have to switch the drugs. Okay, that is when you start using second line drugs. Sometimes you can use some drugs of first line treatment in combination with second line treatment, depending on how the patient is responding, depending on patient's condition, all of that. All right. Now coming to the first drug, isoniazid. Okay, इसको INH भी बोलते हैं, as I told you, or H. The main mechanism of action of isoniazid is that it will inhibit mycolic acid synthesis. It is an integral part of cell wall of the bacteria. Okay? When we were discussing TB, I told you that that bacteria will come inside the macrophage and it will start dividing. Okay? यहाँ पर whenever it is dividing, it needs to make new cell walls. Right? एक बार अगर cell division हो रहा है, it needs, the daughter cell needs to make new cell walls. If you are giving a drug which is inhibiting mycolic acid synthesis, if there is no mycolic acid present in that bacteria, the cell wall will crumble, meaning the bacteria will die. All right. So if I write the mechanism of action as a flow chart, INH enters the cell. This enters the bacterial cell. Okay. Enters bacterial cell and becomes active. So technically speaking, INH is an inactive drug. Once it enters the bacterial cell, it will get activated. Okay. Once it is getting activated, this fellow will bind to certain enzymes of your bacteria, which are responsible for the production of mycolic acid. Bind to or binds to bacterial enzymes responsible for mycolic acid synthesis and inactivates them. Okay. The result will be that mycolic acid is not produced. If mycolic acid is not produced, cell wall becomes weak. Weak cell wall. This will basically lead to bactericidal effect, death of the bacteria. This is the mechanism of action of your isoniazid. Pretty simple. It is getting in, it is entering inside the bacteria. It is getting activated inside the bacterial cell. Initially, when you give the drug, it is inactive form. Once it enters the bacteria, it will become activated. After that, it will bind to certain enzymes of your bacteria, which is ultimately results in prevention, or it will result in the inhibition of what you call mycolic acid synthesis. If mycolic acid is not formed, the what you call cell wall of that bacteria will become very weak, resulting in the death of the bacteria. Okay, so this is the mechanism of action of your INH. Now, as such, if you give isoniazid alone without any drugs, generally TBK drugs are given in combination. Okay, यहाँ पर if you only give isoniazid to the patient will develop resistance. In a few weeks or a few days, the patient might develop resistance. So it is generally given in combination with other drugs. All right. Coming to PK of drugs, this is never generally given alone as such. Orally absorbed. One problem with INH is that it will depend on, or gets metabolized by acetylation. Okay, it gets orally absorbed, penetrates all tissue and CSF. Advantage of this is that if TB, especially in case of the dissemination stage, miliary TB के में है तो, you know that tuberculosis bacteria is spreading all around your body. So if you have a drug that is only able to enter your blood, or if you have a drug which is only able to enter your tissue but not able to enter your CSF, you will not be able to completely treat TB. Isoniazid does not have that disadvantage. It will enter everywhere in your body. Okay? But the disadvantage comes with metabolism. This fellow is metabolized by liver acetylation. ठीक है, liver में acetylation बोल के एक reaction रहता, wherein you will add acetyl group to the drug and you will metabolize it, or you will add acetyl group to any chemical and you will end up metabolizing it, any drug or any chemical. यहाँ पर some people will be fast acetylators and some people will be short acetylators. The difference it makes is that T half will change in patient. मतलब fast acetylators are those people who will produce a lot of acetyl enzyme and they will be able to metabolize the drug faster, whereas slow acetylators will metabolize the drug slower. उसका correlation कैसा आता? Let's suppose a patient is slow acetylator. Okay, you'll only able to know whether the patient is a slow acetylator or fast acetylator after giving drugs that are dependent on acetylation. The effect will be that if the patient is a slow acetylator, if patient is slow acetylator, one second. If patient is slow acetylator, T half of in that patient, T half of isoniazid will be 3 to 5 hours. Okay? Whereas I'll write it here, it'll be easier. Okay? Whereas if the patient if patient is fast acetylator, T half is 1 hour. Now, as you can see, there's a very big difference. Half-life 1 hour rena and half-life 3 to 5 hours rena makes a very big difference. This means that half of the concentration of drug, therapeutic dose of the concentration in a fast acetylator will be reduced to 50% in 1 hour, whereas in a slow acetylator it will be 3 to 5 hours. ठीक है, दोनों के effects अलग रहते. So for example, if it is a slow acetylator, the effect will be that because the drug is staying in the blood for that much longer amount of time, it will tend to cause peripheral neuritis. Okay, the peripheral nerves of the patient will undergo inflammation. This is specifically because isoniazid, if it is present in the patient's body for a long period of time, it will cause increased excretion of pyridoxine. Pyridoxine is very very important for your neuronal health. ठीक है, vitamin B6. ये क्या करता, अगर isoniazid if it is present in the body for a long period of time, it will interfere with pyridoxine absorption and metabolism, and it will also cause increased excretion of pyridoxine. You can avoid this peripheral, which will lead to peripheral neuritis. You can avoid peripheral neuritis by supplementing the patient with pyridoxine. If you give pyridoxine 10 to 50 mg tablets to the patient prophylactically, whether they are slow acetylator or fast acetylator, you still don't know. Okay, you are giving them prophylactically just so that in case they are slow acetylator, they should not develop peripheral neuritis. Agar peripheral neuritis hua bole to they'll become very very sensitive to pain. Okay, their peripheral nerves are undergoing inflammation, so that can be avoided by giving this. In case of fast acetylators, or in case of fast acetylators, the problem is hepatitis, especially if the patient is an alcoholic or if the patient is an elderly person. Okay, if the person is a fast acetylator, meaning they are producing a lot of acetyl enzymes and they are able to metabolize the drug fast, in those patients hepatitis is a problem. Okay, more common in alcoholics and elderly people. I'll just write it down. ADR, peripheral neuritis, is a common problem in slow acetylators, as H isoniazid, okay, H will can represent remember, increases excretion of vitamin B6 pyridoxine. Yeah, it will also interfere with the absorption of that vitamin B6 and metabolism of B6. So this can be avoided by giving vitamin B6 prophylactically. So whenever you are giving a patient isoniazid, just give them another tablet of vitamin B6. Okay, it will help in avoiding this condition. Then in case of fast acetylators develop hepatitis, especially elderly people and alcoholics. It's not much you can do in this case. If they are fast acetylators, they will develop hepatitis. The best you can do is avoid it in elderly people or decrease the dose in case of elderly people. Another very important side effect that isoniazid causes is hemolysis. Okay, breakdown of RBC and death of RBC, especially in case of patients who have G6PD deficiency. Now, G6PD is basically glucose 6 phosphate dehydrogenase. It's a enzyme that is responsible in glucose glycolysis. यहाँ पर some patients will have a genetic problem wherein they have G6PD deficiency. They do not have enough amount of glucose 6 phosphate dehydrogenase. In those patients, if TB occurs and you are giving isoniazid, isoniazid will tend to cause hemolysis. It lead to hemolysis in such patients. All right. So we'll continue with the rest of anti-TB medications tomorrow. Not, don't have a lot of time. There is a little bit more. I'll do that tomorrow.